I'm Trina.
Hi, Trina. I'm Melinda. How are you?
Nice to meet you. Welcome,
Nice
welcome
to meet
to
you
Time and
too.
Tuesdays.
Thank
Whee!
you.
That's usually how I start my Time and Tuesdays. This is my first class of the evening. I usually have it at noon Eastern Standard. Where are you located?
I'm in New Zealand, so it's just
Yeah,
gone 12, it's gone just lunchtime now.
Oh, okay.
I got your message. I woke up at about 3 o'clock and I went, oh no, I hope I haven't missed it and I've got the wrong.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Where are you located?
I'm in Florida right now, but I grew up in Denmark. Born and raised in
Beautiful.
Denmark. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. How long have you been in the States?
I've been in the US like over 20 years now. I came as an au pair. And got married and that whole thing. And then I got divorced and then I got remarried and I'm still here. My kids are here and I'm here and I go to visit Denmark, usually once a year because all my family's still there. I started this program about over a year ago. I started with my joint partner at that time, Louisa. We really wanted to create a program for particularly women that we have worked with, may have been our clients, or women that kind of don't necessarily need therapy or coaching, but really want a community of women who are on the journey and just wants to talk about those topics that we don't talk to everybody about. We talk about stillness and meditation, and I have a really cool topic for today that I hope you're going to enjoy. So we came up with time ins. So time ins is really coming from the timeouts. Which is, we're messing up and we got to go in the corner and we got to take ourselves out of the equation to do better and be better, right? And that's so shaming and that's so isolating. And I used it as a parent, as a
hold on, but let's get real. It's not time out for the child; it's time out for the parents.
Yes, so that's how I learned about it the first time. So then I did adult timeouts, right? So I started putting myself in timeout when I learned this thing, right? My kids were mortified. Mommy, we didn't mean it. Come back out. Right? I said, no, you didn't do anything. I'm just taking a break. I'm calming myself down. But timeouts just still didn't seem fitting until we renamed it to time-ins. Time-ins just seems more of a choice for us to check in real quick, see what's happening with us, give some love and compassion for ourselves, and then we can decide to proceed in our best interest for ourselves and others.
Yep.
Yes. So that's kind of how Time and Tuesdays were born.
I love it. And it's also unraveling the conditioning of the timeout to balance it.
Right. So now it's more of a choice, right? So teaching our kids that, you can take a time in at any time. Sometimes we really need to kind of remove ourselves and it'd be a longer time in, right? Sometimes we can do it in just one breath. Just kind of notice and what's happening. So this is kind of a 45-minute time in space for beautiful women like you. A little bit about me. I am a therapist, licensed therapist. Been that for a few decades, stepping into the relationship coaching space. I'm into mindfulness, theta healing, all kind of the holistic aspects of, getting somebody upgraded really from bottom up, right? Top down. I'm a mother of 3 girls. I'm remarried, live in Florida. And I think my whole life, I just had a purpose of helping others and understanding what life is all about, understanding the journey to self-love, understanding what's the key to relationships, like this deep connection, which obviously took me to the journey of finding myself. And when I finally understood the power of ego and our higher self, and it's like, oh my gosh, why did nobody tell me about this? why are we not teaching this in school?
Because we
I
don't. Yeah, sorry.
go
You
ahead,
carry.
go ahead.
No, you go.
Yeah, I just, I started to teaching it to everybody, and obviously my clients, and that just accelerated their growth so much more, because we're not just teaching theories and mental concepts, right? How to communicate better. No, we got to get to the root cause of it, right? We got to go much deeper. We got to change energies, right? We got to pull limiting beliefs. We got to go deeper. So I love what I do, and I love our Timing Tuesdays, because it's a space where we can celebrate these growth. We can recognize how different we are this week from the last week. We can mirror ourselves in other people, because it is more intense. And we learn something new each week. I learn from my group, and, I bring in a topic each week that we discuss, and that opens up for anything. So that's really what I'm all about, and what Timing Tuesday is all about.
Well, it's interesting, the use of the word teach, because with regards to connecting to essentially the voice of your soul, which is what we're talking about, it's actually remembering rather than teaching. So it's like facilitating people back to remembering that connection, because they become conditioned to not remember. They've become conditioned to suppress it.
Absolutely.
And that's why it's not, well, if we were teaching, if we were, I see it more as facilitating.
Yeah.
So you're supporting the person to journey through their process, and to reconnect to that memory and the answers that are already there, and helping them to make it easier to get there. And if it was in schools, we wouldn't actually need to do it in schools, because parents would already be doing it and staying true to themselves. So it would be at home. So, and the sad part is, because that's not happening, so much responsibility is loaded onto schools that shouldn't be loaded onto them, because firstly, that's not their role. And this is where I have not had children. So, and I'm interesting, the lady I was talking to this morning, we were talking a little bit about the elections, because Kamala and Liz Cheney are both either side of my age. So, and we're the Pluto-Uranian babies that were born when Pluto and Uranus conjunct for the first time in 200 years. And it's that time, astrologically, where, I mean, you can see it in what they're doing. Put aside the politics, because the politics is not for me, because I'm a New Zealander, but I'm looking at the process of it. And Pluto-Uranus processes is about the rapid change, but bringing down the old way to install the right way. And so a lot of where was I going with that?
The reconnecting with the soul, right? That we remember our soul.
It's the remembering, because the connection is there.
Yeah. Oh,
it's just the level of awareness we have around it. And I was talking to this lady this morning about how I remember when I viewed that voice and that energy as being my higher self, and it's not anymore, because I talked to her about it actually belongs within you, because your soul came here to be in a human body, not to be separate. So it's about giving the soul permission to be in the body and to communicate internally rather than externally. And so I find it really interesting that a lot of people do use the term higher self, because I know I don't feel a separation anymore, which is
and that's not, and then I don't view it that way either. It's interesting that you actually physically put it above ourselves, which I guess some people do. It's hard to say if we go higher or if we go deeper, because I kind of use those words at the same time. Like we want deep connections and deep relationships and deep meditations, but at the end of the day, we go higher in frequency and we can connect with our soul more. So is that deep or is it high?
But is it either? Is it
either? Exactly.
But is it actually we're opening up to allow it to come through to the surface? So is it us going deeper, or is it us getting out of the way of it being fully within us? Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, I'm loving this. I'm loving this. And
It's
that's where the human language is really limited in so many aspects of really describing this notion, right? Because we all have a different process to it. And when we then describe it, it doesn't really justify.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. For me, I've worked for years for myself on when I'm communicating with people, what's the process I'm experiencing, rather than what's the dictionary word or what's the latest fad word. And yes, you still need to use some of that to make those connections. Like I was saying to the lady this morning, one of the words I never, it's like we were talking about the version of yourself. And when it came out, the whole process, be the best version of yourself, I was like, oh my goodness. To me, I went in and I feel that. And it's, I'm selecting which part of me I want to show. And that's not being your true self. So that's actually you putting up a persona and not being authentic. Now, authentic was another one I didn't like, but I am using it now because I've got clear on the distinction. To me, authentic is about honoring the truth of what you're thinking, feeling, physically going through, energetically going through, physiologically going through in this moment. And it doesn't mean you have to share it with others, but it's about you being authentic and acknowledging that truth now, because that's what gives you the ability to either change it, express it more, expand it, love it, nurture it, heal it, whatever it is. Whereas your true self is not your authentic self.
So what do you see the difference is?
Your true self is your soul, the pure, whole, limitless being that is divine, that is connected, that is, and the soul doesn't associate with virtually any of the concepts of personal development. They're human concepts, because love is not even necessarily a word for the soul or a concept, because it's a human concept, because we experience lack of love. So we have to know what that connection to the soul energy of that is. To recognize it, we need to experience the lack of it for our human processes to be able to.
So you're really talking about true self is the energy of the soul that really can't be defined, or it's not really tangible, where the authentic self is a human experience of being aligned with your soul.
But it's being aligned with your soul, but also being aligned with the truth of what is happening for you as a human, as the human side of your being. And
I like that.
I see our process, because we go through, we're born as a soul in a human body. I mean, that's part of our purpose is having the human experience, because the soul in its form doesn't have a body, doesn't have words, doesn't have visuals, doesn't have a need to communicate verbally, because it's and it's not even telepathic, it's just connected. So it's that conscious knowing. And so the soul has come here to experience the beauty of the human body and all the processes that come with it. But what we do is we go through a process of wanting to connect back to our spiritual self. So we reject the human side instead of actually going, I disconnected from my soul, because the human experiences that we go through non-acceptance, because we haven't evolved enough yet to get a handle on this process. And, our journey, for those that agree to in this lifetime to go through it, is to actually journey back to our soul and traditionally in generations gone past, once people had achieved that, they didn't need to be here anymore. But we're now at a point where there's enough people who are aware enough that once we connect to our soul, it's now expressing the soul and the purity and that wholeness through the human processes, because that's the uniqueness of the human experience.
Yeah, no, I love that. Wow, you put this so well. I love this. This is exactly what this space is all about, Melinda. And isn't it just so beautiful that two strangers on each side of the world like totally speak the same language that is not even tangible across time and place? And it's just so beautiful, and it's just so full of love and acceptance and compassion. And I don't even know you yet. I don't even know you. So tell me a little more about you, Melinda. So you talked about, you know, Jana's masterclass and books and stuff, but what's your background? Give me a brief overview on who you are.
It's a brief one. My childhood offered contrast, lots of contrast. So I got to experience a farming environment, but also one of the wealthiest environments in mid-city. I got to experience a small town school going to the top, private school. I got to experience so many things, but a lot of violence, a lot of anger. And I never fitted anywhere. And I also consciously remember knowing and sensing and feeling and seeing, especially seeing spirit, but I didn't understand, so I shut that down because it scared me. When I was 18, I remember sitting and going, I am a product of my environment, and I'm going to find Melinda. And my mother, I chose well with my mother. She had studied Carl Jung, even though I read a page of Carl Jung. So this is going back to my teens, and I was like 20 times, and I still didn't get it. Now it's like not a problem. But she exposed me to astrology at 16. She also joined ashram and meditated and did past life regression and all of that. And she exposed my brother and I to a degree, but it was sort of a bit tongue-in-cheek. I spent a bit of time living overseas, went through even more horrific experiences, and that led to when I did go and stay on the ashram in India, so the affiliated one that was the head one, and I did become initiated, but my purpose of initiation wasn't because I don't see people as gurus. I see each of us are our own guru, but the guru of the ashram gave me a spiritual name that had relevance, and I was committing to myself because I still hadn't, even though I was committed to finding me, I still hadn't found that way, but I was following it, and I got harder and even more. I was destroying everything, and especially myself. And I have very strong energy, and power is a big part of my astrology chart. And so it's being used in different ways. Out of that, I then did the uni thing, except I have a Bachelor of Commerce, but I fell apart at 24 based on I only saw my father once from the age of 17 until he, he's passed now, but I only saw him once because he completely disowned me. And he sent a letter that just took the cap off everything, and I fell apart. And I remember going, I know I have something so precious. It's a jewel that's pure and strong and resilient and whole, which essentially it was my symbolism for my soul.
Yeah, soul calling. Yeah.
But no one can see or touch that in me because I can't. So I then went to get some help I lasted 3 months because I actually knew more than I naturally knew more than the woman, and she wasn't actually helping. She was a psychotherapist. It was lovely to have someone to talk to, but it was the academic concepts that didn't click.
Yeah.
So I made a commitment, I'll do it on my own. And so I studied me, and I knew I had the answers, and I just dove deep and kept exploring. And what I am exceptionally good at is human process and processing, and being able to pull apart process and dissect it, but not from an intellectual perspective. That's where I was heading, was the language we were talking about is I use words that describe the process rather than actually what they might dictionary-wise mean or the appropriate dictionary word. So in amongst that, I also got invited into the training world. And so I was dissatisfied with the training that I was delivering for a company. And I met, funny enough, a Scottish guy. We were working together, and I said, you know what? I'd just like to walk into a room and go, what's happening? I said, because a lot of the content is absolute bullshit, and people just want to have their process facilitated. So I started developing our own unique way of facilitating people. Mm-hmm. So I was developing my ability to design, to deliver training, creating our own facilitated approach while doing the personal development. So I did a lot of years of culture development in organizations and creating self-managed teams, delivering this next bit is, that's where in 2000 I sat down and spent 8 months and designed the I Make a Difference program, which is pulling the whole picture together of the journey from being born to disconnecting from your true self and back to your true self and what's involved. And so I got to deliver that within the prison system in New Zealand, which was huge, with murderers and pedophiles and rapists, both female and male. I got to deliver it and with CEOs through to shop floor workers. I got to deliver it with the general public, so we had public ones were delivered. I moved to Australia, and I then was invited to help design and deliver the personal development side of a huge pre-employment program for disengaged youth, long-term unemployed, people with work injuries, etc. And it was the most successful. We took 100 people over 20 weeks, and it was the most successful pre-employment program in the history of Australia at the time. And I was asked to license the program out to every network in the country, and I said no, because I'm the guardian of it, and I knew I was not to do that because it would lose the integrity and be diluted. And so I also used it as part of So a lady who did my recruitment process took it and used it. She ended up in jail, not because I put her there, but because that's how I knew how protected it was. So that all aside, we started dealing with mainly Aboriginals in Australia. So, but we're talking not urban, we're talking traditional. And they're almost more traditional than a lot of the traditional Native American behind. And it was just such a gift. So I did it for 10 years in Australia, and then businesses were threatened by us, and it got too much, and so state and government funding's too hard. Quit the scene and came back to New Zealand. Wrote the book, which I needed to do for me, not necessarily for anyone else. And
what is your book called?
It's I Make a Difference. So
okay. I wrote it on my paper. I love that title. My whole body goes on fire. I was like, I got to get a copy of that one.
Well, I've got I Make a Difference and You Make a Difference, not books, but two brands. You Make a Difference focuses on the human potential, so the expression of your true self through the human processes. So it's working with unconditioning. So take, for example, our sensory processing styles: tactile, audio, auditory, visual, gustatory, etc., have been conditioned and shut down, and it's about being able to access all of it and unlock it again, so that you can then, when you're working with people, pick up on their processing style without having to consciously think about it, because what naturally happens is the processing of their energy, and you will then express and work with them in the way that they connect with, which is really powerful. Rather than, because I'm a strong auditory, so what naturally happens is if I'm with a visual, I naturally start getting visuals. Not because I go looking for it, but because of tuning in with the energy with the person.
Yes.
So where am I? I've been doing what Jana and Sophie said, the ascending model, and Jana's was like, that's it. The big, I'm ready. I haven't delivered IMAD for a while. I'm ready for the big ticket now. And I've got 2 huge courses. I've got a self-worth one I've designed, but I haven't done the videos for. And I just need to work through, it's a lot. There's 12 modules, because I've taken self-worth and broken it down into 7 different elements. And then one of those elements has got 12 elements attached to it. And there's
it's a big concept, I'm teaching part of that stuff in my master classes, and it's a lot, but I love how at least we can try to break it into some concepts that we can wrap our minds around.
Yeah.
Right. And a process, lead you through a process. Right.
Absolutely. And the value for those that are committed to the experience here is when you break it down to those parts, what you're doing is you're consciously integrating that element so that, and it happens pretty quickly, but you're bringing the wholeness of it back, which reflects the soul's process. But the soul is whole, so it doesn't need to break that down. But you then can work with all that almost. No, you do it consciously, but you're not having to put conscious thought into it.
I hear you.
Because it's integrated.
Yes, absolutely. I get a visual. I get these analogies in my head all the time, and people who know me, they're like, "Okay, Trina, what do you come up with now?" So I just see this puzzle of a human, right? Where we're really putting all those puzzle pieces together, which we're tangibly identifying and labeling, right? We're labeling, what are we thinking? What are we feeling? What limiting beliefs go really deep, and how can we clean that out? Like we're making the puzzle piece to really become whole with our soul again, right? So it's that
you're reclaiming
and reconnecting, but we have to put it together as puzzle pieces. And that's, I think, the biggest key for taking people through that process is allowing those pieces to get together. And that's what I love about this space in here with Time in Tuesdays. The women have been in it, a lot of them have been in here for over a year. And they're like, it just all fits together. Sense. Like it all makes sense.
Yeah.
And you learn about one thing, and you learn about another thing, and you learn about a third thing. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, but that's the first thing, right? And that connects with the second thing. And all of a sudden you wake up with this sense of freedom, right? And relief and fully in charge of what's going to happen today, because life is all of a sudden very simple.
Because understanding supports acceptance.
Yes. Yes.
And
understanding supports
acceptance.
I like that.
Which is why one of the most powerful questions, sadly, has been knocked out of us, and we're being conditioned not to ask, which I embrace and love and I grill people with. Why?
Why what?
Why did something happen? Why is it like this? Why do I feel like this?
Oh, yeah.
What breeds the understanding is you get to see the why, and it makes sense. It gives it purpose, relevance, and that allows acceptance so you can move on.
Yeah. No, I love that.
Well, not move on. You can work with what you've discovered in whatever capacity it needs to be worked with. So, Yeah.
And it's almost like it goes from why to why not to.
But you have to have the past why. So you're talking about the past why.
Yes.
When it comes to the present, which will be the why not, which then the future will be the what if.
The what if. Yes, exactly.
But not a
about
what
say
if.
that. Yeah.
But not a what if based on fear and vulnerability. A
No.
what if based on possibility.
Possibility. Yeah.
And creativity, which is our human side.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Because that's a uniqueness.
What if that ceiling just is gone? What if my limited beliefs are no longer going to hold me back?
What if there wasn't a ceiling there in the first place?
Yes. Ooh, I know.
Because is that human conditioning that we were told there is one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if you connect to your true self, that's limitless. There's no boundaries. There's no ceilings. There's no floors even. So,
yeah. I love that. I love that. Wow, I love this topic for today. It just became like Melinda topic, and I love this, and I love new inputs, and I love where stations, because at the end of the day, are you still with me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, yes.
You went out and you're going a bit, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, I love the spontaneous conversations, and eventually I can certainly see Time and Tuesdays turning into more of a, we might bring up a topic, but we might bring up whatever is in the room for the day, right? Which I love, and it just happens to be that sometimes I'm gonna make this the topic for next week, which is really parenting ourselves, working with the parts of ourselves, a concept that not everybody is familiar with, but it really goes into understanding the ego and the limiting beliefs, and understanding how to soothe, these parts of ourselves, which is the path to really reclaiming who we are and feeling more free from that, understanding how can we show up for ourselves and soothe our own needs in those moments. So we're going to be talking about that next Tuesday, which
it's thank you for saying not a lot of people are aware of it, because this stuff is just, it's who I am, and I'm so far removed from actually, because I'm not doing that face-to-face stuff all the time. I don't have a good read on where people are at, except for those in my, I'm in quite an isolated rural community that is not reflective of not when they drive up the road with no doors and no bonnet on their car. So,
wow, that's amazing.
In fact, some of the houses around here don't even have running water. So
wow, yeah, it's so different. Yeah. Yeah, no, we deal with a lot of people still in kind of the, on the hamster wheel, have gotten themselves off the hamster wheel, right? Very aware, very awake, have created a lot of stillness in their lives. Good practice of self-care, self-love, maybe meditation. But there's still that next level. How do I really free myself?
Yeah. Do you find, and this is what I've observed, but it's only the bits I've seen, so I don't know for sure, but from your experience, the self-care and the self-love, not necessarily from what you've shared with people or guided them on, but from what they've been doing when they come to you, has it been more external focused as opposed to internal focused?
What they have been doing before they come to me?
Yeah.
I would say mostly external focused.
Thought so.
Yeah. It is still in the self-care space. It is, taking the breaks or going for a walk or listening to music or taking a bath, there is not a lot of focus on the time in.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
except from maybe the people that practice meditation, but that can be very limited, because if you do that 15, 20 minutes a day, you know, what about the rest of the day? How do we implement this awareness and the stillness and the peace and the alignment into every day?
Yeah. And look, I gave up meditation after a year because I came back to what was my intention for starting meditation. And it was exactly what you just mentioned, the word stillness. My mind, and I listened to your video the other day, and I think I put a comment in, was the different chatter and its nature and its tone and even the voice and the language was so consuming in my head, and the emotional turmoil was so overwhelming that it was a tool I could use to find one tiny bit of that quiet, until I noticed it was suppressing emotion, because the intention was to find quiet, and the process doesn't allow for emotional flow and expression and healing. It actually does a level of suppression. So I stopped, because how could I heal if I was going to continue to suppress emotion? This is not to say it's not the case for other people. What I did go back to further along the line was visualization with a clear intent. And that was, and I term it in one of my courses as the transition time. And the transition time is when, if this is who we've become, the human self that's conditioned and hurt, and this is our true self, there comes a point where you're moving towards yourself that it requires more and more internal focus. And you're starting to release some of the protection that you've held up, because that protection is reflective of the internal protection as you start working with more. And so what happens is your focus comes off external interactions, triggers, energies, etc., which is important, because in order to move more towards your true self and heal and be less of your human self, that needs to happen. And so, and especially when you're at the front of a room of a stack of people who are emotional, throwing energy at you, you need processes to support you to protect your energy so that physically you can carry on. And also so that if you are a rescuer, that you don't take on board people's energy, and because you can't process them anyway. So, but what happens is the more you become your true self, the less you need any protection, because your true self doesn't have emotions, so it doesn't attach to any energy, and it just flows on by you and deflects, and you're not affected by it. So I did use visualization for the purpose of doing energy protection work. Now, when I gave up meditation, I also knew my true self has talked to me quite strongly during my life, even though, and it does to all of us. And it's just in hindsight, you can go back and go, oh yeah, that was actually my soul's. It knew, and I wanted to achieve a meditative state while being fully aware and participating, which is what our soul is capable of. And not capable of, it's what it is.
It's what it is, right? That is really the ultimate state of, I mean, it's like dying in human form, really. I love that. I love that. It really reminds me of you know, kind of the same components as I put in, because you're right. There's a human aspect here that has to work in the human world. And I think a lot of the people that I have worked with is after upgrading and after higher consciousness awareness, it's hard to go back out in a normal world because you sense a lot and you feel a lot and you absorb a lot and you don't quite fit in anymore, right? It's like, where are my people? There's a sense of feeling alone on the journey at times until kind of the new tribe or, you know, a new sisterhood or something like that will show itself. And it's important that we understand, you know, I probably would call this like emotional intelligence in terms of how do we communicate? How do we understand our own needs? How can we understand other people's needs? Which is a form of protection, or at least a way of navigating the world, of staying more aligned, right? Make sure we take the time ins. And then there's the energetic protection kind of in the middle that keeps us, it's not really protected, right? But it's just keeping our energy in check so other people don't take from it, give too much.
But they can't take it unless you give it.
Exactly. So there's a lot of intention in that in terms of understanding, you know, how to protect that. And then more of the deeper work, right? The inside understanding what is my true self. So there's like these components to being a human. It's not just finding stillness, because all of a sudden we don't have any boundaries, and people, you know, we our energy kind of like just flows out. Right?
But it's neutral, so it doesn't have an impact on anything. And in terms of, it's not got an intention of intellect or an intention of emotions behind it. So the energy is actually really neutral, and it's our life force energy. It just naturally flows and does what it needs to do. And that's another component, is being able to recognize the difference between your life force to your physical energy, to your emotional energy, to your mental energy, etc.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. No, I
but when people initially connect to their true self, what they experience more often than not is this feeling of being 10 foot tall and bulletproof, because the power that they experience. But it's not something that carries on, because what's happening is you've just unlocked the energy that's been suppressed. So of course it all comes through at once, and it is powerful. Then it just becomes, that still, it's so, there aren't really human words to describe it, because it's everything but nothing. It's like all the dualities in one. And so that's where it's like, it's neutral, but it's so powerful because of the cleanness and the purity and the strength, but the gentleness, and it combines. And it's only humans that need words to put to it. But that's important in order for our human self to be able to appreciate it through the process that we have.
Yeah. There are so many nuances in this, and I've really enjoyed our time together today, and our connection, and bringing in this topic. You know, these 45 minutes just went like this.
What was the topic for today?
It was what I explained next week. It's self-parenting. So it really is the part of ourselves that have not been parented to the self-love early on, right? We need to kind of reparent now. And I love this. I got this from Dr. Shafali. She talks about, you know, how we need to parent ourselves. Really, to become a better parent, we need to check ourselves first, right? Before we put onto and condition our children to be kind of how we want them to be, right? So that's going to be our topic for next week. It's cool. I'm really excited about it.
And it's been beautiful to meet you, to remember you, because our souls agreed to connect at this point. So
absolutely, Melinda.
Always value that.
And thank you for being part of Time and Tuesdays. And I look forward to seeing you soon.
Absolutely. And thank you so much. And it's been beautiful to spend the time with you and to share and to remember.
And to remember. Yes. Remember. I love that. Thank you, Melinda. I appreciate it.
Take care, sweetheart. Bye.
Bye-bye.